we are going to get started. Oh, that's exhausting. It's a good workout. Okay. So, hi again. I'm Christine Daal from Fashion Angel Warrior. Tonight, we're going to talk about why you need a system. So, my number one question, who knows what system means? Or I should say, what system stands for? I want to hear from you. Tell me. Who knows? Question of the day. Let's see. Trick question. It's actually not a trick question. I say it actually all the time. So if you're a client of mine, you probably should know this. Who knows what the word system stands for? What the acronym of system means? There's a little bit of delay, so I'm going to give you guys a minute. Anyone? No one knows? Come on. Okay, I'll give it to you. A plan. Well, yes, a system is a plan, but I actually mean the acronym. So, don't know. Okay, I will tell you. That's why you're all here. System stands for, and write this down, you will love it. System stands for save yourself some time, energy, and money. Literally, SYSTEM. Save yourself some time, energy, and money. The and is like kind of thrown in there, but you get what I mean, okay? So I love systems. I'm probably the queen of systems. I cannot function. Really, I can't function if I do not have a system in place for pretty much almost every single thing that I do, okay? And believe it or not, you have a lot of systems already in place, even if you don't realize it in your own life. You've developed your own systems over time, and we're gonna talk about that. The Happy New Year, the dictionary.com definition of a system is an ordered and comprehensive assemblage of facts, principles, and doctrines, or the like, in a particular field of thought or knowledge. Everything has a system. Yes, it's very true, Mary Cruz. So I love systems. Again, you're saving the three most important resources that we have: time, energy, and money. Those are the three most important things. I really honestly cannot think of anything more important in our lives, besides God and family, obviously, than time, energy, and money, okay? If you don't have those three things, you're not doing so good, all right? So we need to save those things. Now, I mentioned that you probably already have systems in place. I guarantee that most of you have some kind of a morning routine when you wake up in the morning. You have certain things that you do in a certain particular order that you've done for so many years that you've gotten so used to it, you don't even have to think, right? It's like, okay, wake up, brush my teeth, eat breakfast, this, that, get dressed, do your hair. I'm sure you have a whole routine, how you do your hair, how you do your makeup, right, if you're a girl. So that's a system, believe it or not, that you've developed over time. You've figured out what works for you, and that's a system. And it's probably saving you time, energy, and money, because you're saving time, and saving time is money. And by saving your time, you're definitely saving energy, because hopefully you can sleep more, okay, with that extra time. Yeah, I'm sure you probably also have a bedtime routine, same kind of thing. I'm sure you also have some kind of commuting routine. If you commute to work or something like that, you probably have figured out the exact way to go. If you take the subway, if you're like in New York City, I know for me, like I figured out the exact car that I needed to be on and the exact door that I needed to exit in order to get out the fastest, up the stairs, and to my job when I worked a job. Now I work from home, which is lovely. But I had a commuting routine, right? And I'm sure you have something similar. I'm sure if you work for a place, when you were first hired, the company had certain systems in place for new employees, right? I'm sure that they had some kind of payroll that they had to get you set up on. I'm sure they gave you some kind of company handbook. So we've all been exposed to systems. We've all been creating systems. And yet somehow we forget that we really need these systems. And if something in our life doesn't have a system, it's costing us time, energy, and money, okay? So whenever you go through something in life that you've never experienced before, and this is really what I want to focus on talking about mostly for tonight. You've all experienced waking up in the morning and going to bed at night. But we want to talk about things that maybe you've never experienced before, right? You always have two options. The first option is you can try to basically figure everything out on your own. And this kind of happens like as you go along and you're in the process of going through whatever this new life experience is. And usually you end up making a ton of mistakes, and usually that ends up costing you a lot of time and money. Not good, right? Hey, precious, how are you? The second option is that you can hire someone who's already been through it, who has already done what you are trying to do, who already has a system in place, and can show you the way and how to get there the fastest, the cheapest, and with the least amount of headaches, which is very important. So I'll give you a good example. So when I was getting married, when I got engaged to my husband, I kind of knew what the process of wedding planning was, but honestly, I've never planned a wedding because I've never been married. So I was really clueless as to what I needed to do. Obviously, I knew I needed a dress. There were certain things I knew I needed, but I really didn't know the fastest way to get there, the most exact way, the quickest way without making the most amount of mistakes. I had never planned a wedding before. I never even planned a friend's wedding before in my entire life. So I really didn't know what to do. So of course, what's the first thing I did? I scoured the internet for as much information as I possibly could find, and for every timeline and for every checklist and every calendar, and I downloaded all of them. And then of course I called all my closest friends who obviously were already married and started asking them for advice on what they did for their wedding, were there any mistakes that they made, so on and so forth. And I had a good amount of friends that had already been married. And then I started to compile all of this information together, and I was able to create my own timeline, which I really needed my own timeline, especially because in my case, I was designing my own dress. I was designing it and having it made. Half of it was made here in the US and half of it was made in Hong Kong. And so I really needed to allot enough time for that whole process to happen. So I was able to compile all this information and then tweak it according to my personal issues and what was going on in my personal wedding. Now, thankfully, there is literally a ton of information on the web about wedding planning, so I could actually do this, and I didn't necessarily need to hire a wedding planner. But that's what a wedding planner does. That's their job. And if it was in our budget, which it's very expensive to get married in New York City, by the way, if it was in our budget, I would have hired a wedding planner, but it was not in our budget, and I spent way too much making my dress because it was my dream. And so we didn't hire a wedding planner, so I became pretty much the wedding planner. And I had some really great friends that helped out on the day of, so I really didn't need a wedding planner in that sense. Plus I did a lot of DIY stuff, which wedding planners are only good for like people that want to spend a lot of money because I DIY'd a lot of the stuff for my wedding. But anyway, that's besides the point. But basically, what I was needing, what I was looking for on the web and through calling all my friends and asking for advice was 4 main things. And this is what basically any system is composed of, right? The first was all the steps that I needed to take, right? That was the first thing I needed to know. What are the steps? I need to order a dress, I need to get a venue, I need to get flowers and a cake. What are all the steps? But the second thing I needed was, what's the order that I need to take all those steps? So it's not just having the steps, that's one part of it, but I really needed the order because I'm sure there's a certain order that things need to be done. Otherwise you might go too far ahead and might have to go back and so on and so forth, right? Then I also needed number 3, any pitfalls to avoid, right? If someone had had a bad experience or something happened, I needed to know what that was so that I wouldn't make the same experience with mine. And then number 4, I needed the tips to make things easier and get things done faster, right? So I'll give you an example. So one of the first steps that I found out online is finding a venue, because venues get booked up really far in advance and you want to secure your venue and secure the date of your wedding. So that was super important, and we only had about 10 months, really 9 months to plan our wedding. Not even 9 months, like 8 months to plan our wedding. Not enough time, people, especially if you're making your own gown, but that's another story. So 8 months to plan our wedding. So a lot of places were literally already booked up. We really wanted a September wedding. Places were totally booked up by the time we were looking in January of the year that we wanted to have the September wedding, right? So that was something I really needed to get done first. It wouldn't make sense for me to hire a DJ first because the DJ is going to need